Hmm, hmm. I'm using the computer audio. Woohoo! Let's let's be the big guy in the middle of the screen today. Ha ha ha. Okay, recording again. Um, so anyway, if you're starting to think about what classes to take winter quarter, and you're an art major, please consider the sculpture class because it's one of the few art classes I think that's going to be offered face to face. Possibly bronze casting too, but right now they want me to teach bronze casting remotely for like 7 weeks of it and then invite you guys into the studio at the end of the quarter to do the actual bronze casting and grinding and polishing on the bronze sculptures. So bronze casting is offered at night. Um, the sculpture class, the figure study sculpture class, will be offered Tuesday, Thursday afternoons. So that's what we're going to be looking forward to. Daniela is here. Hooray. All right. That's a lot of people. So just like the University of Oregon and all of the other universities, we're taking this week by week and trying to figure out what we can do safely and what we can do to give you guys the best learning experience possible, and also what we can do to keep ourselves safe, including me, so that I don't die. So that's a thing. So hopefully we'll be able to offer sculpture and bronze casting this winter, along with the design classes. Okay, so everybody's here. It's about 5 after 1. Let's get this party started. I have a list of things I want to take care of today. I did attendance. I want to talk about the midterm that I wanted to schedule for Friday. What can I tell you? I can give you an answer. It's really important that we go back to chapter 1 and just look at how they define abstraction. I really love that they go into a little bit of detail talking about abstraction from the object in nature, the object in reality, and then take it through naturalism, realism, and then several forms of abstraction, increasing abstraction. And basically your textbook's definition for abstraction is the simplification or a rearrangement of elements in a composition. So I like that. That's a really helpful definition for me, not only as an artist, but also as somebody who might be going to museums or art galleries and looking at the bewildering stuff on the wall and trying to make sense of it. And for you guys who are in the design class, and whether you're a visual arts major or not, to have a really good idea of what abstraction is, so that you have some comfort level with being able to analyze and try to figure out the meaning of what's going on in an abstract piece is really helpful. So just the simplification or perhaps rearrangement of elements in a composition is a good working definition of abstraction. And so I offer that to you as one of the things that we're going to be covering on the quiz on Friday. For you guys, I'm going to open the quiz at 1 o'clock. I'm going to keep it open until 5 o'clock. You only get to take it once. You get one shot at the quiz. And I'd like you to just make it a closed book and no notes kind of a quiz where you've done the reading and you've got the stuff in your head and you just go after it. I've given you enough time, so those of you who have asked for more time because of special needs or something, you have plenty of time to take this quiz. So just take it. Don't worry about it too much because it's not a significant portion of your grade, but it is 20 points. It's 20 questions, multiple choice. So you should be able to do really well with the quiz just based on the choices that you have for answers. There are two short answer questions at the beginning of the quiz, and one of them is this definition of abstraction that I've just gone over with you from the text. So that's one freebie that I'll give you for today. Okay, cross contour line drawing. What are we doing here? Well, this week's project has been broken into two sections, basically. The first section is build a still life and draw the still life with contour lines so that you've got the outside edges, the outside lines of the drawing. And for anybody who wasn't here on Monday, I'm going to switch cameras and just blow your minds a little bit here. So switching cameras to this guy and going over here by the side of my head. This is our camera, and this is the still life that we've been dealing with. We took some large, I should say medium-sized boxes and laid them horizontally in the composition, laid some vertically, stacked them up so that they were a little bit randomized, so that some boxes gave us the idea of, let's see, an edge right here with a surface that goes off and recedes into the distance one way and a side that goes off and recedes into the distance another way. So it's a three-dimensional box. It's a three-dimensional object that we have to figure out how to draw. And secondarily, some other interesting objects were placed on top of and around these boxes. So there's a bowl right here that's leaning against this box, and a cylinder right here that's sticking straight out almost towards us, a coffee mug behind the cylinder, another bowl here. So we got a couple of bowls in here, a couple of different looks at a bowl. Up here, oh my God, we got another cylinder and another coffee cup. Wait a minute, there's a theme going on here. There's a coffee cup, there's a cylinder, there's a coffee cup, and there's a cylinder, and that cylinder's behind that coffee cup. Oh my God, that cylinder's in front of that coffee cup. So we've got some things that are happening in the composition that are working together with each other, forming factors of harmony that help pull the composition together, and yet giving us enough variety in the composition to make even this stupid still life interesting. And so having said all that, I'm going to come back to this other view, the other view, which is looking down at the desktop. Hello, desktop. Okay, and last time we drew that silly still life, and my face was right next to the camera. So my eyes and your eyes were exactly in the same spot, so that I could try to show you how to plot these still life elements and draw them out as a contour line drawing. And when I looked at the still life, I tried to just measure by holding a pencil out in the air up against the lines in the still life to try to see what angles those box edges were actually presenting to me and how they might differ from, a horizontal line. Let's make this horizontal on your computer. A horizontal line or a vertical line that would be parallel to the bottom or the side of the page. We wanted to try to see what these edges were doing. Well, we found out very quickly that all of the vertical lines in the composition for the boxes, no matter which direction the boxes were in, all of the vertical lines were still parallel to the edges of the vertical edges of the composition. So that was good. All we had to do is figure out what was going on with the horizontal lines, because all of the horizontal lines in the composition were not parallel with the bottom of the page. And so we kind of had to visually kind of measure the angle of that line and then translate it into the drawing itself to create and construct our box elements. And we tried to construct our box elements, and then we tried to put our smaller elements on top of our boxes. We also went around in the composition and did these tick marks. So here was a little tick mark. There was a little tick mark over here where the edges of the composition were going to go and no further in the composition. This was a tick mark up here for the coffee mug, and the coffee mug wound up very close to that one. So we were trying to locate the compositional edges on our compositional space, and instead of using a format frame for this particular project, we used tick marks to try to find the edges of our space, try to locate the edges of our composition so that as we carefully drew the composition, it would fit into our compositional space. And so we've got the line drawing after one day. Hooray for our side. Now, we're going to completely ruin this drawing. No, it's not going to get ruined, but it's going to be transformed with cross contour lines, because it's not enough just to draw a competent rendering of a still life. We have to take it another step and turn it into a design, perhaps turn it into a bit of an abstraction by simplifying or rearranging some of the elements of the composition. So we've got our thing, our drawing, and let's talk about cross contour lines in this drawing. I'm going to get a couple of different pens to work with and just start talking about cross contour lines. They are supposed to describe somewhat accurately the qualities of the surfaces in the composition. And so if you have a box, for instance, that has straight sides on it, for all intents and purposes, this box has straight sides on it, you know, you're going to be drawing lines that are probably parallel to one of the edges of the box to give us a sense of what the quality of that surface is. And if this is a plane, for all intents and purposes, whoops, I just smudged my ink. It's a plane, then you're going to have a series of parallel straight lines that are parallel to edges of the box. Now, when you change directions, when you go to another side of the box, we might want to run the lines in a different direction so that we can tell one side of the box from the other side of the box. And so these lines might go in this direction, parallel to this edge of the compositional space. And we'll run these lines, you know, up this side of the box, parallel to each other, and coming up the front side of the box like this. So we've got the front side of the box and the side of the box. Yay, that's fantastic. There's even a slight sliver of the top of the box visible to us because it was so close to my line of sight that it's very, very foreshortened and kind of whatever. But if we run lines parallel to this edge right here, and we run them kind of close together, we can see what happens when we have lines on this surface of the box running in this direction, parallel to our edges. And so we try to do this kind of thing to give us a sense of that surface of the box. So I have covered this box in lines. Now, these lines are kind of boring all by themselves because they're similarly spaced apart and they're the same line thickness. And can't I do something to jazz this up a little bit? He asks rhetorically. And so I might want to do fun things. Like on this one, I might double up the lines on this side of the box with spaces between, so that I've got two lines close together and then a space, and two lines close together and a space. This is also just like last week's drawing. That was what? Rhythmic line. So this is very much a rhythmic use of line and kind of changing things up a little bit. We can even go crazy. I did not ask you guys to buy a Sharpie, but you could. You could buy a Sharpie if you so chose, and you could go with any thickness of line that you wanted to in the composition. And I'm going to go rather fast, so I'm not going to make it really good, but you're going to get the idea. And then you could go in and make this better than I'm making it. You could do these lines better, stronger, faster, and have better coverage with your huge stripes of lines and linear form on your box, your drawing. So we're going to do that and run that all the way across there like that. So we've got some variety in here now. We've got the super thin lines on the top of the box and the super thick lines on one side of the box and thin lines that are varying their spacing on another side of the box, and that's fantastic. I'm going to try to let this dry and not smudge it too much while I go into the next area of the box. I do want you to do this part of the drawing in ink. So I'd like you to do it with your rollerball pen or possibly a Sharpie if you've got them, or a combination of the two. I'd like this part to be in ink. Your first drawing, the contour line drawing of the thing, was supposed to be done in pencil. I had to do it in ink just to make it show up over the video. So I'm going to address this bowl right here because bowls are weird. Bowls are a special thing. So we're going to try to do contour lines inside the bowl that somehow give us a sense of the special kind of hemispherical space that happens inside of the bowl. So as we move in towards the center of the bowl, the ellipses get smaller and they move in towards the center of the bowl, and we get something like this, which gives us some kind of a sense of movement towards the center of the bowl. And the outside of a bowl is also kind of interesting too, because we could have lines that sort of follow the outside contours of the bowl, and as they approach, I don't know, the equator, they might straighten out a little bit, and then as they go back into the northern hemisphere, they might tend to follow the curvature a lot more. And so we get a sense of those lines giving us a sense of the outer curvature of the bowl. So, and these lines are running in different directions, so they're not running into each other, and they're trying to not confuse the viewer. So the inside concentric elliptical lines give us a sense of the interior of the bowl. The outside lines give us a sense of the outside of the bowl form. Now you can interpret this any way you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and try to do these lines as if they are sort of running around the exterior of the bowl like that, and perhaps some interior lines to give us a sense of the inside of the bowl. And you can figure out a way to interpret this in a different way if you want to. There are some lines that might run around the foot of the bowl like that to show us that it's a rounded foot, and that's a fun thing. We can also address the idea of the cylinder too. The cylinder is kind of interesting because the cylinder has an interior as well as an outside shape. Let's try the outside shape first. The lines, cross contour lines that would actually describe the surface quality of the cylinder would hopefully be fairly parallel to the ellipse on the outside end of the cylinder. So we're just going to bring those lines around, and as it moves into the distance, as it recedes from the viewer in space with 1 point, 2 point linear perspective, these lines might even tend to get a little bit closer together to give us a sense that it's receding in space and getting farther away from the viewer. La la la, like that, something like that. So you can see the spacing is further apart where it's closer to the viewer's eye, and the spacing becomes a little bit closer together as it gets away from the viewer. Now you can do other fun things with partial lines and something like cross contour lines, because you can run partial lines up here from the belly of the cylinder, and they start to impart a sense of like shading or a shadow area on the bottom of the cylinder. If we've got a light source coming down from the top illuminating the cylinder, usually we'll have a highlight on top of the cylinder, general lighting on the side of the cylinder, and then a shadow on the bottom side of the cylinder that isn't illuminated. And so you can play with even cross contour lines to try to approximate that kind of an effect. On the interior of the cylinder, we would again try to run lines that are parallel to this outside edge of the cylinder form, and run them back into the cylinder to try to describe the inside surface of the cylinder. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to do that kind of a thing. And then if there's a light source that's coming down from the top and you want to get super fancy, you can do this same kind of thing here, only the illumination comes from the top. So you might actually see that you have an additional amount of shadow happening in the top portion of the cylinder, something like that. And so with partial lines going in between the full contour lines, you get a sense of shading with the cylinder, and even more of a sense of three-dimensionality. So that's kind of fun. This is really the idea of the project, is to populate every single surface in this composition with cross contour lines, so that we're transforming this from just a rendering of a still life into something that takes on a whole life of its own, a whole kind of intellectual design life of its own, because now it is a cross contour line drawing that animates every single surface in here with lines that describe the contours of those surfaces by going across the contours, and kind of transforms each thing from just being a boring run-of-the-mill drawing of a box into something that's a pretty fancy box, because it's got different kinds of lines of different qualities on all different surfaces of the box or the bowl or the cylinder. And so that is the second part of the two-part project. This is a 20-point project because I'm giving you 10 points to build a still life and draw it. And that will take, you know, a good hour or two of lab time to just build and draw a still life, especially if you are drawing it in pencil and you have to like erase and change and fix lines and everything like that in the still life. You can kind of see that even though I have some lines in the still life that aren't quite right, and that, you know, I had to make another line or move a line or something like that, it really doesn't matter in the overall scheme of things, because eventually when you start running the contour lines in here, sometimes the contour lines will just help fix something that becomes an errant line like that. And if we're going to get into, you know, funny double spacing of lines, or, you know, close spacing and then larger spacing of lines, when we alternate the spacing, you know, you can hide some of your mistakes in plain sight in this kind of way, and then it's just fine, because it starts to blend into the background, and it's okay, no harm, no foul that way. So, and when I have adjacent sides in a composition like this of a box, I do like to tend to run the lines in different directions. And so if I have the lines running vertical on one side of the box and then there's adjacent side, I will probably be pretty interested in running my other lines with a different spacing going in a different direction on that box, something like that. And so that way we're getting a different character, a different quality to the different sides of the box. And, you know, we're exploring the idea of variety in the composition. I've been drawing for a long time, so I think I need to come back to you guys, because you might get lost, or you might be wondering, what if we have a question? We'd like to ask a question too. So I'm going to open up the chat box and see if anybody wrote anything in the chat. I don't see anything in the chat. Nothing in the chat. I'm going to look at the participants list and see if anybody has their mic unmuted or their little blue hand up to see if they want to ask a question. So do you have a question at this point about what this project is all about? Because I would be happy to entertain answers or even lies. If I can't answer a question, I'll make something up. No, I won't. About this project. Let's see. I'm going to go back to this just for a second so I can have this to the side. So the point of this project is not that you, okay, did you get the template I emailed you? Yes, thank you. So the point of this project is not to try to, you know, draw over my shoulder and to draw this particular still life on your drawing, although Daniela did that last time. And if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off to you, Daniela, because that was spectacular. You know, you actually were able to keep up with my demonstration pretty quickly and almost draw this particular thing right off of the video. There is a recorded video of this in our Zoom video recordings section of e-learning. And so if you want to look at the video again to see the demonstration, please do that. That's one really nice thing about these online courses that's better than doing this in person is that you can actually see the demonstration over again, which is super nice. Another thing is that I set up the camera and everything so that it was exactly at the same eye height and eye perspective and everything that my eyes were at. And so you were able to see me construct the drawing from my perspective, looking at the still life without any distortion or anything like that. And that's really helpful. I've never seen that kind of a demonstration before, where the camera is like right next to the artist's ear, right next to the artist's eye. And so the eye height, the horizon line, you know, all of the proportions, all of the linear perspective is absolutely the same in the drawing as it was in the still life just off the page. So that was pretty nice. And that probably gives a really good sense of how to proceed with doing a still life drawing, even if you've never done one before. So what I'd like you to do, again, if you haven't done it already, is find some cardboard boxes, maybe 3. 3 is kind of like the magic number. 3 is a sacred number. It's a magic number. It's not a balanced number, so it creates a little bit of asymmetry in the composition, and it forces us to play a little bit with kinds of balance in the composition that are not just perfect symmetry. So a couple of boxes laying down, maybe one box that is standing up on its end, boxes that are on edge, providing this edge-on kind of view to the boxes so that you get to draw 3-dimensional boxes in space would be nice. If you don't have cylinders, you can just take your paper towel roll right out of the kitchen, and you can just lay your paper towel roll right there and draw it, and then put it back in the kitchen when you get done. So that would be fine. Toilet paper rolls or empty paper towel rolls would work too. The idea of the coffee mugs is kind of fun because they're a variation on the cylinder form. The idea of bowls, cereal bowls or mixing bowls works really good because, again, you're getting a circular kind of a form that has at least one edge that's a circle, and then as it rotates in space, it becomes this ellipse. So we get to deal with a circular form in space, rotating either towards or away from the viewer, and to be able to measure and show the different kinds of ellipses. Even an ellipse that we can't see, like the top edge of this coffee mug, you know, if I was going to draw the rest of the coffee mug ellipse in here as a dotted line, oh, you can't see that because it doesn't show up very well. But, you know, dot, 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 it would be an ellipse like this, but we can't see down into there because of our the eye level. Our eye level is down here. This is where our eye level is. This is about the horizon line in the composition. And as we look up at those objects, all we can see are the bottoms of forms. We can't see the tops of forms. And so I'm going to do this one just a little stronger. So I can see the bottom ellipse on that coffee mug, but I can't see the top edge of that coffee mug, or at least I can't look down into the coffee mug because my perspective from where I'm sitting, I'm looking up at the bottom of the coffee mug. So that's kind of a fun thing. So what I'd like you guys to do is work on this over the weekend, continue to try to get this drawing done, and then of course photograph it and be able to share it as a screen share, as an open document that you can share screens with on Monday, and we can look at these and talk about these on Monday. If you are having trouble, or if you're super proud of things, I'll take either one. Take a picture of your project in process if it's not quite completed, and if it's driving you crazy and you need some help, take a picture of it and have it open on your desktop. And on Friday for the quiz, we might take a couple of minutes and just answer some questions or look at some projects that are underway. If you finish the project and would like to share it, and you're so darn proud of it, you just got to share it, take a picture of it, have it open as a document on your desktop so that we can share it and we can talk about that. I don't want to get into too much of a critique on Friday because really I wanted you guys to just be able to do the quiz on Friday. But I'd like to be able to answer a few questions to try to get folks out of the weeds if they have wandered into the weeds with this drawing. And let me just say that even if you haven't drawn a box in perfect linear perspective so that it looks like a box that's, you know, that it looks like a box, if one of the lines is off or it isn't quite working as a linear perspective drawing because this may be your first drawing ever, don't worry, because that is an abstraction of a box. That is where the elements have been either simplified or rearranged for the purposes of art, for the purposes, you know, of the artist. And so your box that you think is horribly misshapen is actually an abstraction of a box. And hey, that fits right in with our definition of abstraction, which you will be quizzed on Friday. So having said all that, I'm going to look one more time at the participants list and see if anybody wants to ask a question, seek some kind of clarification of anything. The group chat, there's no more things. Oh, Gabby, yes, please.
So for the, so we do it in pencil first, and then we do it in Sharpie, or is it ballpoint pen?
You don't have to do it in Sharpie. The only reason I did it in Sharpie was to make it visible for the demonstration so that you could actually see it. You can do yours in Rollerball. You're welcome to do it in Sharpie if you have a Sharpie too. You can do it in both Rollerball and Sharpie if you're really trying to get a wide variety of thicknesses of line in your composition. The choice is up to you. I do want this done in ink, so that's a good question. Thank you so much for asking that one. All right, that was really good. I have an appointment at the DMV at 2 o'clock, and as I look at my little watch on my wrist, it's 1:35. So I'm going to call it quits for today so I can get to the DMV for my 2 o'clock appointment. This is good. I'm also going to post this video online too, so that we have both the actual drawing the still life video, and then there's going to be a video on filling in the cross contour lines too, to give you as much, you know, help as you possibly can get. Please skip the boring parts and go to the parts of the video that will be helpful to you. And I will see you guys on Friday. I see no more hands up or unmuted mics, and so I'm going to wish you a happy, sunny Wednesday, and we'll get together again on Friday for the quiz, and then also to talk about projects if you wanted to share or have a question about the project on Friday. So goodbye for now, and we'll see you again on Friday.